Nicolas Cage is probably one of our generation's definitive actors.
Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. It's Andy Gillard here. Hope everyone is doing well out there.
How are we doing, guys? Matt Guy here. Hope everyone's having a good evening so far.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Hello.
So, gentlemen, we've had to watch Snake Eyes and 8mm for this week. Like the reason I paired these two films is I have a recollection of them being two big, crazy Cage films. They didn't quite play out like that on rewatch, but I haven't seen these for probably about 20 years, but there we are.
But to be fair, when you put the list up, I would have said the same thing, that these two would have been nice together. And it seems I was thinking of a completely different film altogether with one of them.
Yeah, same. Yeah. So I suppose the link is they're the final two films of the 90s, I think, for Cage. Because we've got 98, which is Snake Eyes, and then 99 for 8mm. So let's get straight into Snake Eyes then.
Here, this isn't a beach town anymore, it's a sewer.
But it's my sewer, Jiminy, and I love it. I kick around about 6 square blocks, everybody knows me, I got the whole town wired. Someday if I manage to get my face on TV a few times, maybe I'll run for mayor or something, but that's as far as I want to go. Because I was made for this sewer, baby, and I am the king!
Curtain up. The film starts with exposition about a storm coming on the night of the big fight. We meet Nicolas Cage straight away, over the top, loud, obnoxious, wearing a sleazy lawyer's outfit. He's got the brown leather jacket, shirt with the biggest collar I've ever seen, and slicked back hair. So, I think this is why I paired these films. This is why I thought Crazy Cage, because that is my overriding memory of Cage in this film, is that garish get-up right at the beginning. Cage is trying to place some bets, seemingly underhand black market kind of bets. Then he chases a man down. Cage looks like he's going to be an absolute schmuck, but then he pulls out a cop's badge. He catches up and then beats the guy, and then he basically mugs him. So we found out that actually is Cage going to be a bit of a dirty cop in this? Is that where we're going with it?
Yeah, it went from... He did such a good job of being a sleaze. I automatically assumed it was a fake badge.
Yeah,
I just assumed. Yeah.
Because I thought he was some kind of dodgy promoter.
Yeah, like I never for a second thought he was actually going to be a cop. That becomes a little bit later.
With that gold cell phone as well, like to add to the sleaze.
Oh no! Come on, I had a gold phone.
You
90s.
had that suit, I reckon, Stu.
If I was old, well, it's a life goal now. No, I'd remember the BT. It's how long has it gone? 2 minutes, and it's already gone off for one. It was like the BT Cellnet ones, who were like that, like about 7-8 inches long, and there were a big U on the middle, and there was a tiny screen, like a little, but enough to get one line of text on, and there was a phone shop in town for obviously. For Wolverhampton people, opposite TJ Hughes, the bottom by the calf. There was one there, and they took, because it was on a Nokia, they had to take the whole case off. So they took the whole case off and sprayed it shiny gold.
Oh my god!
Wow.
A pimp phone, and I've still got it. It's obviously knackered and don't work, but it was the pimp phone for the next year and a half.
I think if any story encapsulates Stuart Hall more, it is that one.
Deary me.
So Nicolas Cage, he's a bad cop doing shady deals and shady actions, screaming and shouting like we're in store for some of the purest Crazy Cage we may ever get. Cage takes his seat ringside at the big fight. He sits next to a straight-laced admiral friend of his, played by Lieutenant Dan. Cage and Lieutenant Dan go way back. Dan is protecting the Secretary of State of some such area, who knows. He's an important man with an important job. Nicolas Cage looks like a coke fiend.
But why does no one say anything to him either? They're either scared of him or everyone knows him. But if you see someone acting like that, then surely they're drawing attention to themselves.
Especially being front row, sat next to a Secretary of State and a man who is dressed like a lieutenant or an admiral, I think he is in this. He sticks out like a sore thumb, really, doesn't he? Whilst trying to protect the Secretary, Lieutenant Dan gets drawn away from his seat, believing an attractive redhead is suspicious. Even though there is absolutely no reason to believe that. She's a hot woman sat on the front row of a boxing match. Like, she couldn't have been more in the right place at the right time if they had have paid her to be there, for crying out loud. Whilst he's away, Lieutenant Dan is replacing his seat by a blonde-haired lady, played by Carla Gugino. Whilst Dan is away, the champion boxer gets knocked out and the Defence Secretary is fatally wounded, and the blonde lady is grazed with a bullet. She runs away, but not before dropping her wigs and glasses, revealing herself to have dark hair. Hair plays a really big role in the opening of this film, I think. So we've got Cage with his slick-backed, scummy lawyer look. We've got the short back and sides of Lieutenant Dan. We've got the blonde lady becomes a dark-haired lady, and we've got the redhead. Almost everything seems to be playing out around hairs to start out with. I don't quite understand why, but that seems to be the only signifier of who and what people are in this. It's a bit weird.
Yeah, for a film about boxing as well, which has got famously no hair at all.
Well, I had like notes on here about it was like a bloody episode. It was like playing the game Cluedo. You had the woman in an all red dress, you had Cage in all green, you had the Admiral, you had the girl, the blonde girl with the white dress. It's just, it was a bit strange, really. I loved how frenetic it all was during those scenes, though. Like, when everything was going on, I thought it was fantastically well done.
Yeah, I think up until this point, like this is the highlight of the film for me. The opening sequence of this film, as you say, it's frenetic. It draws you in. There's so much bright moving colours and everything, and it's really, really well done. And that's probably the end of the praise I'm going to give this film.
Of course it is.
Yeah, it goes downhill quite fast. It doesn't go downhill yet, according to my notes, but it's not long before. It's not far off before it does. I think at this point in time, though, well, the dialogue is so fast-paced and it's quite interesting, and you're piecing together what's going on, and they feed you little bits every now and then, and I think they do a really good job of it as well. But I think we're getting into a bit of a running theme with Nic Cage films, where once the cat's out of the bag, the films really drop off a cliff incredibly quickly. Once we know the twist, or we know, so we took like Grand Isle, for example. Once we knew what the situation was with that couple in Grand Isle, that film
died on its arse.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It really did.
Yeah. So after discovering the assassination, Lieutenant Dan shoots and kills the assassin. And then he shuts down the whole building, making sure that nobody escapes. Cage takes over the investigation to make sure that Dan's mistake is not discovered. There is absolutely no way on earth that the guy who was sat front and centre at this murder would be allowed to be conducting the investigation. Yeah, it just wouldn't happen, would it?
Dressed like that, and all the press and media just look up to him and say, "Oh yeah, okay, you go ahead."
Yeah.
But even do they even say what rank when the guy walks up the stairs to him and he says he's in charge? Did they even say what rank he was?
I think all he says is I think he's a homicide detective, if I remember correctly. But that was literally everything. It was just, okay, so we just have to bow down to you now. Like, never mind the fact that you're wearing a shirt with fucking bananas on. We'll just buy straight into it, mate, no problems. Now the detective work starts. Cage figures out that the champ threw the fight. The champ says that he was told to throw the fight by some redhead in order to settle some debts that he had. But he did not know he was there to facilitate the assassination. Carla Gugino goes to the bathroom to clean up and get changed. Was this just an excuse to show Gugino in just her bra? Because we didn't really need to see it. She was out in the open of the bathroom, so surely there would be other women in there because they were in a very busy area. But no, she was in there on her own, wetting herself down in just a bra. it just felt like it was very much the whole male gaze thing at play.
And I was wetting myself down watching it. To be fair, it was it's very 90s.
Massively so, yeah. Yeah, it reminded me of the scene in Star Trek with Alice Eve, where she just gets like naked for no reason other than they can make her get naked. Cage has changed his clothes now. He's still wearing what appears to be that weird leather suit, but he's got a white button-down shirt and black tie on. And also they've changed his hair so he looks a little bit less sleazy. All of a sudden he's a good cop. It felt like it was such a tonal shift on the character, and there was no real justification for it other than someone had been killed. We were just supposed to buy that he's gone from someone who beats up people and takes their money, and now we're supposed to buy into him being this straight-laced good cop without, like, we didn't get a face turn, and I didn't really like that. I wanted a bit more of an explanation other than he was trying to save his friend. I found that quite odd.
Is as soon as he changed shirt?
Yeah, that seemed to be literally all of his character exposition. I've got a different shirt on, so I'm a different man now. We find out that Lieutenant Dan is a bad man. He's actually the man who is behind the plot to kill the secretary. He then meets up with his accomplices, whom he kills, seemingly for no real reason. They were on their way out of the building. He could have just followed them, got in the car or whatever, and fucked off, and it'd have been golden, but he decides to kill them and stick around.
With that classic kind of low camera angle as well. You're looking up at him like he's a king.
Yeah. As she said, very, very 90s, I think, in its approach at times. While searching for the now-dead redhead via the casino cameras, Cage clocks Carla Gugino. They'd never really explain what she has to do with anything. Not until much later in the film. So Cage is, I know he's not looking for her, but he figures out that she's now brunette, but she was the blonde, and he's chasing her, but we don't know why all of a sudden he thinks she's linked, other than she just happened to be there. It's just bad storytelling, I thought, to be honest.
I never thought anything of it, just because the redhead obviously stands out, but other than that, of the people around the front of the ring, she was the only one that you'd look at, really. So it wasn't too much of a stretch for me. It was just one of them things. Oh, there was another woman there, so let's find the woman.
But he never did it with the girl who had the number 7 board, the ring girl. He never tried to find her because she called him just before the assassination, which seemed to distract him. So maybe it's because I'm not a homicide detective, but for me, I would think that call was placed in order to try and distract me. So I should find the ring girl, not this other woman.
Yeah.
See, maybe that they should have done that as well. They should have said that we're looking for these 3 people, and then they find her. Then that would have explained it a bit better.
Possibly, yeah. I just thought it was really bad storytelling. The script didn't facilitate anything for me at this point.
Up to this point, we don't know that she's not a bad guy, do we?
No.
A bad girl, I should say, because all we hear her say is, "Are you going to regret it?" and something to the Secretary of State. So I suppose, yeah, it's lazy in that we as the audience know why he's looking for her, but we don't know why Nic Cage is looking for her, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's a strange one, isn't it?
I just couldn't marry the two up, personally.
And did anybody pick up on this before it was explained, the whole she can't see anything? Because I don't know if I was like dozing in and out of like this film by this point, but when there's the whole she can't see anything, she keeps seeing like the shadows, and she'll walk up to somebody, that guy who she ends up going off with, back to his room and everything like that. I just didn't really pick up on any of that. I didn't see what that brings to the table really in terms of anything. No. Why did they shoehorn that in?
No, because
it was just a weird character trait. I didn't get it.
Yeah, because it's completely abandoned later on. They never come back to it.
Maybe there was a subplot that it made sense, and again, it ended up on the cutting room floor.
Well, there's a lot we'll come to later that it could explain everything in this film.
Okay. Right. Is this going to be like Batman versus Superman, where the director's cut would have explained everything?
It would have explained some things.
Right, okay. Fair enough. So at this point, Carla Gugino, she pretends to be a sex worker, and she gets the dude who looks like Dennis Nedry from Jurassic Park back to his hotel room to try and escape.
It wasn't him.
I don't think it was him. It looked
the spit of him, to be fair.
He did. I honestly, first off, I thought, it's Nedry from Jurassic. But the second viewing, I thought, oh no, it's not him. But yeah.
Didn't say the magic word.
We get another shot of Carla in the toilet in her bra. Again, for no real reason, just because she's a very attractive lady. That seemed to be the only thing they wanted. She runs before Lieutenant Dan gets there, and she runs into Cage, who is trying to find out what is happening regarding the shooting. A lot of effort from Nicolas Cage to get to her when he has absolutely no idea how she's important. Surely he should be sticking with his friend, who he obviously doesn't know he's a bad guy, but you'd think they'd be working together. But at this point, they're just two completely separate entities. Very strange. Whilst recounting her experience, or maybe that should just be while she's dumping a shitload of exposition, because that's basically all it was at this point. She explains that Cage, that Lieutenant is part of the assassination. This scene goes on for fucking ages as well. And it's going over the same thing we've already seen twice from two different points of view. It was just dour.
They went over the same subject twice on the stairwell.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's all it was. It was just her point of view, but we've already had two other iterations of what was going on, because we saw the original and we've seen Lieutenant Dan's version of it. So we've now just got hers. And
there was some parts about, we'll come on to it later, but there was bits of it where seeing it from different points of views, I quite liked that about it. I thought that was quite quirky, and that was one of the things I thought, oh yeah, I'll remember this film for this. Not much else, but I remember it for this.
You know what it reminded me of, Stu? You ever see that film Vantage Point?
Yes.
You just reminded me of that. That's all I could think about when I was seeing it. I think they did a really good job of it as well. Just having, feeding us little elements each time, but even swerving us with things that didn't actually happen, which I thought was quite a nice touch.
I think it would have been fine had that scene in particular not gone on for as long as it had. It felt very much to me like they were trying to pad the movie out at this point. Like they'd shot the load and they were just trying to wait a bit more time before giving us the main event. And I don't know, it just wasn't for me. I thought it was quite badly made at that point.
It was almost, because I thought they spent so much time talking to each other that surely they're going to be caught up by here.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Like, it's not like they were hiding. They were just sat down on the staircase where people should be walking through, you'd think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at this point in the film, I was completely bored. I had to keep rewinding it because I kept finding myself just playing games on my phone. So I know I'd completely check. I was like 5 minutes through and I thought, oh shit, I don't know what's been going on in this film because I've been doing this nonogram game where you've got to create patterns and stuff. So I thought, yeah, that's a bad sign if I'm not actually paying any attention.
You're right though. I fell asleep for a bit of it. I'm not gonna lie. That never happens. I'm not asleep. I when I'm watching something, I tend to try. I fell asleep and I had to rewind it.
So did I.
Yeah.
It's probably all the same bit as well. It was like
mine was.
It was when mine was when they were in the like the security room and he wanted to look at the footage on his own, and then Lieutenant Dan came in and creeped downstairs like Insidious.
That's literally the next scene. Yeah. So I think we all checked out roughly the same point of this movie. Yeah, it just I don't know. It just didn't hold any attention whatsoever. There was too much talking and not enough action for a film that had been built up on such a frenetic, action-packed start. It just died a death pretty much straight away after that. So Cage and Dan, they finally come face to face. Dan gives him his evil bad guy monologue, explaining why he's really the good guy in all of this. Why do big name actors always have to do this? They've got to justify their actions. They can't just be a dick. They've got to have a reason for being a dick. And surely it'd be more fun to be like Gary Oldman in The Fifth Element. He's just an asshole and that's it. And it's brilliant. And he looks like he had so much fun.
Mhm.
But anyone else, no, I've got to tell you why I'm this way. And it's just fucking boring, especially in this film. It doesn't help.
It's bad guy 101. It has to be done in these kind of films.
It certainly feels like it.
It's like Harry and Marv in Home Alone. Telling him their plan twice.
At least that's funny, though.
I think the only time so far we've seen it be done in any acceptable way is Ed Harris in The Rock, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's the only time where we've actually the character has been so convincing enough that they believe their own spiel that you can almost see their side, whereas this definitely didn't feel like that at all.
I can't even remember what his piss poor excuse was for why he had to kill the Secretary of State.
Because he was the one who was opposing the bill about the weapons or something. Oh, God. We ever mentioned the weapon?
It doesn't really matter though, does it? Like it is a MacGuffin. It's just there to move the plot along. It has no real purpose.
The whole reason for someone being shot in the first place was to cover up a thing about a dodgy weapons. Well, some kind of satellite weapon that doesn't work.
Yeah, but I mean that's it in a nutshell, isn't it?
It's like a Bond plot.
Even as someone who doesn't like Bond, I would buy that a lot more than what we got here. Like it would be a bit better in a Bond film that's a bit more tongue in cheek. Whereas I don't felt this was.
How much better would this film have been if this was a plot about Nic Cage's a shady cop, there's the boxer takes a dive, and there's a murder at the fight, but it's just about dodgy money and bookies, and he's got a cop friend that's not the high ranked official, and he's actually in on the mafia, and it was more of a mafia related film, or it was more of a gangster related film than this whole Secretary of State, everything like that. It would have been so much better. It was so much more relatable and believable, and like they could have ramped up the violence on it a little bit more as well, and they could, it could have just been. Feels like a proper opportunity wasted with how good the first kind of 20-25 minutes were.
Yeah.
Okay. That's just a check. Enemy of the State was the same year, so it was all that kind of surveillance,
conspiracy theory, and
conspiracy theories, weapons, and governments controlling everyone, like coronavirus now, people. And it was that kind of the end of the X-Files kind of alien conspiracies. It turns out just anti-government. So there was a lot of this shit around. I think it just got lumped into this film, and as per usual, let's say half an hour in, it's two films in one.
Yeah, it very much does feel that way. But I mean, it's Brian De Palma who's directed it, so Brian De Palma is someone who I would imagine to do more of the mafiosa style films and do something that Matt has just described rather than an enemy of the state type of film. So like the director, like even his normal work would be geared towards something completely different, and I think that's why it feels like it was two films. It almost felt like he tried to do his normal shtick for the first part, and then he was trying to do something different, and it didn't work. So Cage and Gugino get saved when a police van rolls up and stops Lieutenant Dan from shooting them. They get saved by Deus Ex Machina, the cheapest of cheap shit endings. They get saved by dumb luck. I hate that when that happens. So it just so happens that someone's driving by just as they needed to be there. No, like don't have a ghost in the machine savior. I really hate it.
Yeah, I thought they were going to go with the gruesome, that massive ball thing, whatever it was on the floor, was going to get whipped up in the tropical storm and actually smash into Lieutenant Dan at the end, and that was going to be the end of the film, and that was going to be like because they built up this whole tropical storm / hurricane that they mentioned a few times with the reporter, and they kept focusing on that thing as if it was going to be of more importance than it was. It was just strange.
Yeah.
Well, that was the end. If you look in the credits, ILM are credited in the actual credits of the film, despite what do ILM do? Special effects. And there was apparently a massive tidal wave at the end of the film, and they cut it out.
Right. Okay.
That's why when he said something about nearly drowning, because I thought, hang on a minute, have I missed something here? And so I rewound it and watched that whole fight scene with the silly ball and the whatever it was that went through the wall. I thought, well, something, unless this is missing from this copy of the film, like the Bad Commando DVD copy. I thought, well, something's not right here. And then you have the thing with the jewel, and so I thought, well, surely that's not the end. And then I looked it up, and apparently they did. They filmed the whole sequence. And there's a whole thing, a tidal wave hitting the side, and then the ball would have been involved, and it would have washed everyone away, which would have been a decent point because the whole tropical storm thing throughout the whole start of the film, and why they're stuck there in the first place, and it was just took out.
Jesus Christ!
Lifted and shifted.
It was Wow. So it was took out of the film. But then the line about nearly drowning was left in.
That's very cheap, isn't it? Good God. Yeah, so as you say, throughout the film they have played on this tropical storm and the fact that the Colosseum, or I can't remember what the arena was called anyway, that this was about to be demolished, and they play on it all the way through, and there is absolutely zero payoff to it in the end. Strange. And then Lieutenant Dan shoots himself in the heart. Why? If you're going to commit suicide and try and escape from it, why would you shoot yourself in the heart? He's gone the Texas tornado route, which is a very strange thing to do. We then get a montage of Cage. He wins an award, becomes a hero, and then gets done for being a corrupt cop. The end, or so I thought, but apparently there's an after credit scene, which I have not seen. So, gentlemen, what have I missed?
It's not after credits. It's in the credits.
It's in the yeah.
It never goes to black.
It's the strangest thing, isn't it, Stu? Because it's like you watching these workmen, and I thought something's amiss here. Like we're constantly focusing on these workmen doing something, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then it focuses on this bloke's hand for an uncomfortably long amount of time,
and his hand's leaning up against a post.
Yeah. And then, Stu, what do we get? What do we reveal?
And then he moves his hand out the way, and there's a jewel in the cement. And exactly, Andy's eyes are rolling in his head, trying to think of what it means. And apparently, it's someone who was one of the women who was thrown in. Is it the redheaded one?
It's the redheaded woman. Yeah, she was at some point in the film.
She had a ring.
She had a ring on, but there's a bit in the film when someone has a body in a body bag and he's pushing it down into something, but it's not even explained, and that's her put into a vat of cement.
So I don't know what to say to that.
There's no rhyme or reason. There's no explanation for it. It's not like it's even like a swerve at the end. Like we care. Like it makes no. It's like Stu said. They've took a chunk out of the film. And that should have been like a cliffhanger or a swerve at the end, but because they missed this bit, as if we're meant to care about it.
Yeah, because she's not like a just shaking his head here. She's not like on the FBI's most wanted list, and so just because she's dead and it proves that she's dead, it doesn't matter because she was dead and she was a minor criminal, and they spend 10 minutes zooming in on a concrete post to show a jewel, and then it goes off.
It's just like, that's utterly ignorable because, like my reaction to when you said there was a jewel, I'm like, yeah, and what's that got to do with anything? Were they smuggling diamonds or? Okay, right. This film's shit. There's no other way to put it. So it clocked in at just over 90 minutes. I think it, including the credits, I think it was 96 minutes in total, something like that. So they could quite easily have put in another 10, 15 minutes just to add a bit of cohesion and try and get the story together.
Yeah. So you would have had the storm, which is relevant why they're stuck there, as well as being locked in for that reason. Then you would have had the boulder thing, which would have made sense. You could have had the thing where she's thrown into the cement mixer, not in a body bag, which would have made sense at the end. You don't need the end anyway. And you could have had not a kind of a montage of his life going from good to bad for no reason at all. And then he's just casually saying, "Oh yeah, I'll split up with her. I'll kiss you now." Why?
Yeah, and that was weird. That at the end, she decides that she's going to wait 2 years for him. Like, you've got no real relationship other than you nearly died together. And it's like, oh yeah, I'll wait for you. I've only met you twice before, love, but yeah, fuck off, rubbish.
At least could have been like exciting if when they're doing that whole lifting that concrete, actually there was one of the missiles in there that actually they hadn't stopped it all along, and they still had these weapons or something. At least that would have given us a bit of intrigue. But no, it was just some jewel for a person that we can't quite remember. I was reading an online forum about it, and they hinted at the fact that it was actually the boxer, not the redhead. But then but even then, even if it was the boxer, who cares? Like this, it makes no bearing really. It doesn't have a major impact on the film at all.
It's on the outside of the post as well, so it's structurally not safe. So,
so by the rules and the regs, they need to go back then.
Yeah, they have to take it down.
Right, so IMDb, this has got a 6.0. Like, I think that's quite high, if I'm honest. The Metacritic score was a 52. Rotten Tomatoes critic score is a 41%. And I was quite surprised to see that the Rotten Tomatoes fan score was lower. It was 35. Usually, it's the fan score which is the higher of the two, but it wasn't in this case. The budget on this film is an astounding 73 million.
Really? And I bet 20 million of that was on ILM, which we never got used.
Probably. That's the only explanation. They must have spent a shit ton on some of the effects, which never even made it. But the box office, it actually made a profit, 103.9 million.
I mean, if it like you said, Stu, that was the flavour of the month at the time, or that year or a couple of years, then I can see why it would have, because at that point it's got names that people would be interested in, are quite in culture at the time, and it's a subject that people want, are interested in at that time. I could see probably why people have gone and seen it, but I'm astounded at that budget.
Yeah,
because like, apart from the actors themselves and the boxing scene or scenes, I suppose, what have they thrown the money at there?
God knows. So we're on a run here. So Nic Cage in 95 would have done Leaving Las Vegas and won his Oscar. Gary Sinise, I think he was nominated, but I don't think he won his Oscar for Forrest Gump. So we've got two who've got credibility. And then Cage went on to do The Rock, Con Air, Face Off, City of Angels, and then Snake Eyes. So Cage is on a hot streak at the minute.
Yeah, for sure.
So I assume that's why people were going, because we know we get a certain type of film from Nic Cage when you look at his previous Stu.
Well, I do know what some of the budget went on. Stu, you'll like this. There was no less than 3 different wig providers for this film. As I saw it in the credits, including there was a company called London Wig, like manufacturers or something like that. But yeah, I just thought this was a strange, like, how many wigs could they possibly require for one film that uses 3 different manufacturers?
Well, like, obviously we had the blonde wig on Gugino. Was the redhead wearing a wig as well?
I don't think
wasn't
so.
she? Or was she not? Cage wasn't. Sinise, I don't think Sinise was. So,
yeah, Cage's hairline in this.
Looks like worse than ours.
He was offended by his own hair. Was offended by his face. It was just at his face.
So the good, the bad, and the crazy. Stu.
The good was the first 20 minutes. It was, and like we've already said, it was entertaining. It was 12 minutes of which was a one shot. Superbly. And they had some good ideas. Again, the theme of this show. The bad, just because half of it seems to have been left in the editing suite for no real reason at all. But why? They've made a film worse for no reason at all. And especially with a budget like that, which must have gone on the effects, Otherwise, why ILM even mentioned? I mean, they didn't provide what the blimp cam, did they? That don't cost 20 million quid.
No.
And Crazy Cage for the crazy at the start, and just some of the decisions were just baffling. But again, it's two films in one. One that was really entertaining and showed promise, and then one that was a lot of shit, really.
Yeah, I mean, for my good, bad, and crazy, the good, same as you, the first 15 minutes I thought were really well done, beautifully shot. As you would expect from De Palma, you expected to have a lot of long, unedited shots. It was looked lovely, and it was a good, interesting opening to the film. The bad was the rest of the film from that point on, because it was just painfully boring. And the bad, I like the actual story. It was so contrived. I watched this film twice, and I still don't really understand why there was a problem with the weapons test and why that the Secretary of Defence had to die because of it.
It wasn't accurate enough.
So why has he got to die?
Because he knew it wasn't accurate enough, and they were covering it up. Because
just
bad. It would have made more sense if they just killed her before she told him that it was broken.
Yeah, no one would give two shits, would they? Just some scientists dead.
So at that point, he didn't know. He knew something was wrong because she spoke to him on the phone. How they knew that, who knows? But other than that, it could have just been some wacko phoning him up. There was no proof until she gave it to him. So if they bumped her off first, no one would give two fucks, and then we could have saved half our lives.
That's true. And Matt, what's your good, bad, and crazy?
I really liked the different viewpoints of what happened and the consistency of it all. I thought was really well done, and it was very over the top, and I thought that was really, really, like both of you said, it was shot very interesting for the first 20 minutes or so. Really, really, I was hooked. I thought this is going to be great, like, because we spoke about the film sparingly before this, and you both kind of made it clear that you thought it was shite, and I thought, what are these guys on about? This is going to be another one of those where one of us disagrees with the other. And boy, did I agree pretty quickly. The bad, it was just a complete lack of interest in the villain, which is something that really irritates me in film. Like, do we care? Like, he's got such little emotion, and we don't really understand the reasoning behind what he's doing, and we don't, it almost feels as if the villain is MacGuffin in itself, just because we have to have one. It was just a real wet lettuce when it came to that. I was really disappointed with how the film panned out, and Nic Cage goes from this really sleazy cop, which is a really enjoyable thing to watch, and he does it really, really well, to out of nowhere just being this willing to take a beating for this woman he's never met. Yeah. And like be willing to pretty much die for her and doing the right thing, which he's never had a problem doing before. So yeah, it just really hit a sour note. One thing though, and this is purely just an annoyance more than anything, to spread the crazy really more than anything. Are we meant to believe that boxer Ruiz is meant to be a heavyweight boxer? He had like bigger man tits than I have, and he was dancing around, diving around like that. He was so out of it was such bad casting. And like the only thing I can see, it's either just amazing foreshadowing of the actual Ruiz that knocked out Anthony Joshua, because that's the only thing that is like relatable to the two.
Yeah.
It's just really, really strange. And you know what? Actually, I would have liked to have seen more of the whole Tyler taking the dive. Like, they actually had real emotion with him when we were watching him. Like, in the last few minutes of his like professional career before he takes a dive, and that's probably like the most emotional bit of the film that actually got me. And it's nothing to do with the plot. It could have literally been anybody doing anything else, just a reason to get them in that arena. It's a shame.
Yeah,
I did like the bit where in talking about the boxing section where he went first person for no real reason at all, in the dressing room with him.
Yeah.
I thought that was because we talked about first person viewpoints on it before and how they're normally quite shit. And I thought that one, and then how it kind of pulled away from him as well to show he's in front of the camera. I thought that was really well done, that scene. But again, we we're going into style rather than content again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a spoiler alert for one of the questions, but I thought that the dude who played the boxer was probably the best actor in this film.
Mm-hmm.
And like, he's in here with some big hitters as well. Like, we know that we can get good performances out of everyone else in this film, but he was probably the standout for me.
Well, you mentioned that scene, Stu. Have you seen the uncensored Smack My Bitch Up video for The Prodigy? Just reminded me of that. Like, I thought we're going to turn around at the end. It's going to be like something completely different. Yeah, I enjoyed that scene as well.
There's another film, Peeping Tom, which is told from the point of view of the killer. That's quite an interesting one, which is shot in a similar way. If you like that sort of visual, it's worth checking out anyway.
Well, we've got to mention Peep Show, then my favourite TV show of all time.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, large swathes of that. The film's first person, which I think helps because it makes it so uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Love it. So, did you enjoy this film? Matt, are you recommending this to your friends and family?
No, I'm not. And this, you know why this film is unforgivable? Because it doesn't even fall into the so shit it's good character category.
Yeah.
It's just shit. It's not City of Angels shit. In that actually you can poke fun at it and quite enjoy it because it's shit. It's bad, and I'm really annoyed because if I'd have had a power cut at 30 minutes and anyone go, oh yeah, I'm going to watch the rest of that. It's class. You should watch it. But no, sadly not. No, I'm not recommending it. Sadly.
Stu, are you in the same boat?
Even I can't say. I couldn't look myself in the mirror after saying to someone, "Watch this. It's fun," because it's not. It's not like. That's a bit around the bush here because people expecting me to go on a rant again, but it's just disappointing. It's not even it didn't even make me angry because they had a good opportunity and they clearly did have the footage and they just threw it away. But why? Just baffling. So you can't recommend it because it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I've got nothing really to say about this film. This film lacked any real depth. It was just surface level, boring shit. That's all I can say about it. There was no depth. It was just everything was on the top, and no, I'm not recommending it either. So Nic Cage, good or bad? Obviously, I've already nailed my colours to the mast. Even his character flip flops. He went from being a sleazebag to a schmuck to a dipshit to a hero cop, but without any explanation at any point. It's really bad. And I know that's down to the writing and the direction, but we know that Nic Cage has got quite a bit of pull at this point in his career. Really, I felt he could have done a lot better. So it's a no from me. Stu?
This one I was actually torn on because that first 20 minutes is absolutely exceptional. But then, like we said, it is the writing that's the problem and it is the film that's the problem. And when you've got nothing really to work with, I mean, what do you like when you're sitting on a stairwell for 5 minutes? What are you supposed to do there? And it's because it doesn't make any sense. It's hard to say because he's not bad in it. He's just average. You're going on 51-49 here.
Yeah,
just for that first 25 minutes because that was really fun. And that's pushing it a lot, but just about.
Well, I mean, you're talking about 15 to 20 minutes of a nearly 100-minute film. Okay, fair enough.
He's in a lot of them first 20 minutes, though.
Yes, true. What about yourself, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, he does make chicken salad out of chicken shit in this film. And again, he does the best with what he's given. I think the scene when he's getting beaten up and him kind of walking around like the walking wounded very nearly made me say no. I'm going to give him a yes purely on the basis that I think if he was given the opportunity to do more of what he did at the start of the film, he would have continued it, and we as the audience would have enjoyed the film more on the back of it, and that is what makes a good actor. I think even the best actors on the planet would have struggled with the writing that they were given, but we wouldn't call them bad actors because of it. I know the question is on this film and this film alone. So yeah, I'm gonna say I'm sticking with my guns. I'm gonna say yes, asterisk, just about.
Fair enough. I think it probably was lost in the edit somewhere, to be honest. That's fair enough. So we go from Snake Eyes to Private Eye, as we're going to talk about 8mm next.
Sir, could I interest you in a battery-operated vagina?
Well, it's tempting, but no thanks.
Okay. I'd hate to see you caught in one of those everyday situations that calls for a battery-operated vagina and you just don't have one, you know what I mean?
I'll risk it.
So, living life seamlessly, nice life with his wife, played by Catherine Keener, and his child. Nic Cage gets called to a house of an upper-class old broad. She has discovered a snuff film in her deceased husband's belongings. She wants Cage to find out if the snuff film is actually real or not. I thought when Nic Cage was watching the snuff film, I thought that was a really good bit of acting from him. So we don't get to see all of the snuff film being played out. We watch a lot of it through Cage's eyes. We see him really struggling with what is going on in this, quite frankly, what would be an horrific viewing. So I thought it was really well done, that start, when we get to see his reactions.
It was like a really bleak soccer Saturday.
Well, I thought to myself, he's never been in like a WhatsApp group with more than 5 lads, because those are the kind of videos get bandied around all the time these days.
Dan.
It was just, it was a little much for me. It was a little hokey. It was a little bit like man gets hit in the groin with football, more of like a ooh than him being like genuinely disgusted about what he's seeing. I mean, it definitely wasn't the inspiration for Gogglebox. That's for sure. watching the snuff film, but yeah, it was okay. The very start of the film had a thing for me, and I thought they were going to play on it a little more. Like when we instantly know that he lies to his wife about the smoking.
Yeah,
I wondered, we didn't really get a payoff for this, and I didn't get it. I thought they're showing this to kind of to play on it later, and I didn't really feel like I got the payoff from it.
I think we're supposed to take from it that he tries to protect his wife from the big bad world.
Okay.
Because obviously then he goes on his trial of porn. He doesn't tell her that he's going into the murky worlds of, you know, death, sex, and the likes. I don't know how to describe it. You know what I mean? He doesn't tell her what's actually going on.
Car boot sale of porn, basically.
But yeah, he tries to hide like what's going on from her. Maybe I don't know. That's what I got from it. But you are right. It does set him up to be a bit of a shit that he just lies to his wife willy nilly.
Yeah, I just thought something was Matt. I thought, well, they've just shown that he's a liar. I don't think anything else of it.
But I suppose you will only get to that conclusion once you've got to the end of the film. If you know what I mean. So maybe I don't know. So he returns home to say goodbye to his child and wife before he begins his trial, heading to Cleveland. As part of his investigation, he discovers the victim was named Mary Ann Matthews, and he contacts her mother. While searching her house, Cage finds Mary Ann's diary, which states that she's going to Hollywood to become a star. Mary Ann's mother confides in Cage that no matter what, she would rather know what has happened to her daughter. Cage doesn't tell her the grisly truth. We then get to see a very young Norman Reedus.
Oh, yeah.
But he does not look any fucking different, even though this film is over 20 years old. Obviously got very good genes.
He just ain't got a beard, that's the only difference. He speaks the same.
Yeah, he hasn't changed at all. Mad. So Cage then goes to Hollywood. He meets Max California, played by Joaquin Phoenix. Does Phoenix ever give a bad performance?
No.
There's just something about him. I think in everything I've seen, he's been never less than really good. I honestly can't think of a bad performance he's ever put in.
No, he's great in this. One thing we need to mention, what isn't, there's this soundtrack when he's driving through Hollywood, which absolutely cut through me.
But the banger stuff.
it was like Ladysmith Black Man Zambo or something. It was like it was just I just couldn't get my head around it. It made no sense. It didn't fit in at all with what they were
Very
trying.
out of place.
Yeah, it's massively off-putting.
Yeah, I liked Phoenix's opening lines when he first meets Cage. Sir, can I interest you in a battery-operated vagina? I would hate to see you in one of those everyday situations which calls for a battery-operated vagina, and you don't have one. That just really tickled me, because immediately we know that California is a fairly playful dude. He's very light and upbeat, even though he works in a pawn shop and he's about to go and investigate a murder. But we know that he seems to be a good dude when the people we're starting to meet generally aren't good.
I mean, to be fair, he has got like 6 magazines in his arms at that point when he asks him that question.
True.
Have you ever been in one of them places?
No. Actually, no. I think so. For work, I'm an inspector of business properties.
Work.
Yeah, and a colleague of mine has had to inspect. Have you heard of the Foxy Lady, which is a porn cinema in Bilston? It's a big pink building. You cannot miss it. And like the first thing he did when he got back from the inspection was showed me all these pictures. He was like, "The fuck's this supposed to be?" So yeah, I think it's full of all weird and wonderful things.
Dear me.
You know, when Griffo had it's still there on Broad Street next to where the charcoal grill used to be. There's a shop there, and it was a Stick 'em Up Punk. It was called. He sold like band T-shirts and stuff like that. But downstairs, because they never really checked, I think, who owned it before, and there was a sex dungeon downstairs. With handcuffs on the walls and everything, and it was like 14-year-old girls went in that shop to buy T-shirts, and that was downstairs.
Oh,
good God! I suppose at least he wasn't selling stuff from the dungeon, because that would have been a bit much, I suppose.
No.
So Cage then hires California to help him in the porn world. He directs him to a talent scout, Eddie Poole, played by the late great James Gandolfini. It was great to see Gandolfini in a role. It feels like a lifetime since I've seen anything with him in, and he's another one, just never puts a bad performance in anything.
He was excellent in this as well.
Yeah,
really excellent. Yeah. Not to give spoiler alert for the end, but the supporting cast absolutely carries Cage through this film for me.
Undoubtedly, yeah.
Mm.
Cage asks about Mary Ann. He gets batted off by Poole. So Cage then bugs his office trying to get some dirt. Poole manages to lead Cage to Dino Velvet, played by Peter Stormare. Fucking Peter Stormare. Gee, what an actor. Again, just as you just said, the supporting cast is just fantastic. And Stormare's another one. He gives a crazy Cage performance in this. Proper over-the-top crazy bastard stuff. Brilliant.
Have you played Until Dawn yet? That I told you about 4 years ago.
I've not played it, no.
Where Peter Stormare is a supporting character in that film, in that game.
Yeah.
As pretty much as himself in the is like the narrator of the game kind of thing, where he cuts back to him, and it's the same in the Man of Medan series as well. He's the same character in that, and he's excellent in that as well. It's obviously full motion capture and all that kind of performance stuff.
Yeah,
he's just excellent, even in that role.
He's brilliant. I love him in Prison Break as well. He's so good. And again, he plays a similar kind of, obviously not a porn director, but he just plays this badass. Wonderful.
Oh my God, he's in Prison Break?
Yeah.
I've just clicked now. Oh, of course he is. Yeah, he's excellent in that.
Something Arbruzzi.
Yeah, he's really, really good in it as well.
And he's in Fargo, the film, as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who feeds Buscemi into the chipper. Great. Fucking love that film.
Spoilers.
Spoiler alert, yeah. So, yeah, Dino Velvet, he's an artiste porn director. He makes bespoke BDSM videos. I thought BDSM taught people how to drive. No wonder the seatbelts are a little bit tight. Cage gets a meeting with Velvet to commission a one-of-a-kind film. His demands for the film are that, one, he can be there to watch it, and two, that Velvet uses the machine. The machine was the man who was in the snuff video, and he's the one who delivered the fatal blows to I could probably phrase that better. He's the one who killed Mary Ann at the beginning of the film. Before the video shoot, Cage sends California home as he fears for his safety. If only California listened. When Cage turns up for the video shoot, he gets ambushed. Paul, Velvet, Machine, and the old lady's lawyer from the start. They knew Cage's game and they were there to stop him. So they kidnap California to ensure that Cage does as they say and gives him the snuff film. Once Velvet gets the video, he tells Machine to kill California. Cage then sows the seeds of doubt amongst the bad guys. Velvet kills the lawyer kills Velvet. Cage escapes. Cage informs the old lady that her hubby was a dirty sex pervert and that the video was real, and he tells her they will go to the police together and expose everybody. She kills herself and leaves Cage with the money and gives money to Mary Ann's family, and she just asks them to forget it, that what happened. As if you could, after all that. Cage doesn't forget. He wants some form of vengeance for Mary Ann and her family. He goes to Paul to try and get the identity of Machine. Paul doesn't know. Cage forces Paul to take him to the site of the murder. Cage calls Mary Ann's mother and tells her what happened, and if she wants, he will hurt the men who did this to her. She tells Cage to hurt them. I loved that scene where they were in that hut. Just the acting between Cage and Gandolfini was brilliant. Gandolfini was such a shitbag horror that I'm amazed that Cage would have needed to call the mom to find out if it was okay. Like, even if he hadn't been part of a snuff film, he deserved to die. He was a horrible, horrible human being.
You know, it must have been 20, 25 minutes of film. I didn't even move. I was just completely gripped by it.
Mm.
It was, because I thought I had seen it before. And I probably have, but again, it was a long time ago. But I was sitting there with my popcorn, obviously, and large Coke, and I didn't move. I didn't move for about 20, 25 minutes at the middle of the film. I think I was just totally absorbed by it all. And obviously, because it's all grimy and grim shit anyway, which is always fun. But there was just something about it. I just loved it.
Just transfixed.
Yeah, it was great, wasn't it? And Gandolfini, the way he was goading him on, and then the way that we could see him turn, and they go for this whole I can't remember the exact phrase that California used. He says the devil will get you the devil will get you eventually in this game, or something like that is the phrase that they use. And we see kind of Cage's descent into madness, or descent into that world as we go along in the film. And I think the way that they, for me at least, I didn't expect him to kill him. I thought he'll do the honourable thing as a honourable man and just call the police and they'll arrest him and then they'll uncover the dirty thing. And actually they didn't, and that was like really cool to see. Now we're swinging into a different area now, and how we're gonna play with that. But yeah, really, really well done. Something that I wasn't expecting, so it felt really fresh. See something a little different.
Yeah. So after beating Paul to death with the butt of his gun and burning down the murder scene, Cage then finds the Machine. They have a scrap. Cage stabs the Machine, who takes his mask off. I don't really understand what the purpose of that scene was supposed to be. Like, he's just a normal looking dude, but it's not a supernatural film, so I was expecting him to look like a normal dude.
I think it was like you expect someone like that to be like, like Greasy Cage from Snake Eyes. like that kind of like that you'd kind of bloke you see like licking windows and stuff. That you know what I mean? One of them types. And to see him just like someone who works in IT was a bit okay. I think that's what they were going for, but because he was almost too normal.
Yeah, okay.
And because they were how he was built up and he had that tattoo on his hand and all that stuff, and he was a bit like the Mountain and stuff from Game of Thrones, and he was an unstoppable force. Actually, he looked a bit like Dean, to be fair.
I'm sure Dean will like that comparison.
Well, Dean loves a bit of BDSM anyway, and he'll thank me hugely for saying that. But yeah, I think that was the whole point of it, that he was just a normal guy, and that a normal guy can be pulled into this world of debauchery and sickness.
Yeah, I saw it as them trying to paint the picture that actually normal human beings are so close to this world that we don't. It's not as far underground as we actually think that it is. That normal people get wrapped up in this really horrible shit, and it's so easily accessible that as a normal average person that has no special qualities, strengths, powers, can be this, underground sex sensation in this world. That do you know what I mean? I think it's just trying to say that we're all actually not too far away from this if you look in the right places, and how that's actually a problem.
Okay. I'll get onto it in the next bit where I think of it. But okay.
You know what? I think why he's so confused, because he is this kind of person.
I just think this is normal snuff films and everything.
Yeah, we can't see what's on those DVDs in the background.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't know what's on.
We've never seen the other two walls of this room.
Good point. Yeah, it's mostly comic books, to be honest.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So that was 8mm. It was quite a straightforward film in actuality. In the end, I felt. IMDb 6.5, Metacritic 19. The Rotten Tomatoes fan score was of 52%. So obviously, it's divided people. The Rotten Tomato critic score was a 21%. The budget on this was only 40, which, I mean, I suppose it almost looks like it's a indie film almost, but it's still a big name director. We've got some big name stars, so to have a budget of 40 is quite incredible. But the box office was 96.6 million, so it more than doubled its money.
I'm surprised about that, because I remember this film being everywhere.
It was on the side of every bus.
Yeah. Which for something of this subject matter is a bit weird, really.
Well, you say sex sells, isn't it? They say. I think people want to get a little titillation without actually having to go and watch a porno. So maybe that's it. Maybe there are stranger films to go and suggest to watch as a couple, I think.
And no broadband then either.
True.
Yeah, good point.
It's funny actually, because when was this film made? Sorry.
99.
Oh, 99. So, well, I wouldn't have had internet then anyway. But the world that we live in now compared to the world kind of about 10 years ago. I remember at uni, one of my close friends who sadly lives in Australia now, he made me an emergency porn disc for whenever if the internet went down. And like the world that we used to have to live in when that was a thing.
I know it used to take a good couple of minutes on dial-up to just download a picture, and then you'd have to save the picture if you scroll down it'll go away, and then you have to load it again. I thought, oh shit, it's like double your money kind of thing. Do you
stick or twist?
Yeah, do you get to the next one, or do you stay where you are? So you save it to a floppy so you hide it under the floorboards.
Surely it wouldn't be floppy anymore.
Oh no, that time permanent.
So the good, the bad, and the crazy. Matt, do you want to kick us off?
Good. Absolutely 100% Phoenix in this. Thought he was sensational. He was really, really likable as a character. He didn't bring the humour to a point where actually he becomes throwaway, but he just gives us a nice, kind of like Hades over the River Styx, really. A nice way of kind of guiding us through this murky underworld, without him being really overbearing and giving us a little bit of comic relief. I thought he was superb, but head and shoulders the best thing about the film for me. The bad, Cage's really wooden phone voice. He has this like voice on the phone. Now I work managing people in a call center, and I hear this phone voice all the time. People completely like phoning it in, like, wanting to sound posh, and when they're not. And Cage makes himself really unlikable at the start of the film when he's doing his PI work for me. The crazy, it's more of an annoyance than a crazy. Why does every film that has any kind of perversion or anything like that have to have heavy metal music? Come on, guys. Like, have you listened to the lyrics of like some rap music or some like grime music? It's far more sexually oriented than any like Black Sabbath song or even industrial metal. Give it a break. We're all nice people. We don't all like to watch snuff films and tie each other up. Maybe we do, but not all of us. Leave us alone.
Stu, what do you think?
Did you follow that? I thought again it was a similar kind of thing. The good was everyone else. The supporting cast was superb, all of them.
Yeah.
It was completely believable in what it was. And for a film this dark, again, you're talking about a film about the dark side of the porn industry in the late 90s when was Trainspotting 96?
Yeah, something like that.
So you're already getting some like gritty kind of. I mean, I love this gritty shit. It's class because you don't see it very often, and when you do see it and it's done well, it's really good. So I like that because they did seem to nail it from what you'd expect it to be, kind of like if you were in that kind of world. Obviously, got no first-hand reference to say, but it all seemed believable to me, which is all you can ask for. The whole relationship with his wife, it was just weird, like how she was constantly phoning him up, and the like, why was the baby like not in bed all the time? And you know, you expect to phone at that time of night, and you think, okay, I'll put the baby down, and surely that's going to put it out of its routine. But no, the whole thing, the interaction between the two of them was just a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the intention to make it a bit strained.
Could be.
But
what purpose did that serve if that was the case?
Yeah, exactly. It was like the fag thing from the start. Cigarette Americans. That whole thing it had points where it was showing you one thing, but then you could look deeper into it, but it didn't go anywhere.
So apparently, according to, I think it's IMDb, I read it on, Joel Schumacher felt that role was the most important one to cast, the one of the wife.
Pardon me?
And I don't really know why, because she served no purpose to the film. Nic Cage could have just been a single man and it would have made no difference whatsoever.
Well, yeah, because all she was there was for him to be guilty and lied to.
Weird. And you're crazy, Stu?
Just Joaquin Phoenix's performance. It's just some of them, some of the lines, but and just some of the. He was out crazy in Cage in parts.
But in a good way.
In a very good way. Yeah. In a very good way.
Yeah. So for mine, I know we've all heaped praise on the supporting cast, but I thought the one who played Mary Ann Matthews' mother, I thought she was brilliant. She had such a sense of world weariness about her, like she'd seen some shit in her life. You genuinely felt like she'd been through the wars. I thought she was superb in it, and obviously it was such a small role, but I thought she was vital into humanising what was going on. Excellent. For me, the bad, I'm going to have to say Schumacher, because originally David Fincher was supposed to direct this film. So we were supposed to get the director of Seven, and it was written by the writer of Seven. And instead we got the guy who made the shittest Batman film. Like, we got someone who's a good director, but he's very much seen as a studio safe pair of hands. If we were given someone who's a bit of a maverick, I think this film could really have excelled. But unfortunately, that's not what we got. I felt quite let down.
You know, when he died a few months ago, and we said about favourite Schumacher films, and I said that this was one of them because I generally like this film. And that's why I knew that I had seen it before, because I don't remember loving it the first time I saw it. But I couldn't remember when I was watching it again. I couldn't remember a lot of it going forward. Yeah.
And for me, I'm the crazy in this one, because I don't know why I thought this and Snake Eyes were two crazy Cage performances. They've ended up being two very downbeat almost performances, very, very safe performances for me. There was nothing where he really excelled in them. So I think I'm crazy for completely misremembering both of these films. Never mind. So, did you enjoy this film? Stu, you've just said that you're a fan of it from way back. Are you still a fan of it?
Even more so now, but I think with a bit of context and a bit of age, I'm even more so. I loved it. It was great.
Fair enough. Matt, what are you thinking?
Completely the same. Absolutely loved it. Thought it was really interesting the way that they did it, the supporting cast, the plot, the messages through it. Absolutely loved it. It was everything I wanted it to be, and I wasn't disappointed.
I feel really bad because I hated this film.
Of course.
I remember reading the reviews when it was first released, and when I saw the film, thinking, I don't understand why the reviews hate this film. I remember really enjoying it when I first saw it 20 odd years ago. But right here, right now, I understand why those critics absolutely slated it. This film has no real depth. This could have been a really interesting exploration of darkness within the human soul, and it wasn't. Like, there's that saying about if you stare long into the void will stare back into you. And rather than that, this was just, they're talking about the void stood near it. They're not actually looking at it. It felt very surface level. It was like they were trying to talk about stuff that was of real importance, and it just didn't work. I just felt it was a real missed opportunity, this film was. So, obviously, I'm the odd one out again.
No, it's different strokes, isn't it? Like, I wasn't in... This is probably the most damning thing that I'm ever going to say about Nic Cage. But because it was a Nic Cage film, I wasn't expecting to be challenged in terms of what I'm viewing. So I went into it with little emotional investment or emotional expectations. And so for that reason, actually, it hit the notes because I wasn't expecting much because, sorry, it's a Nic Cage film of this era. So I don't know that. But for you, obviously, differently, and this was my first viewing of it as well. I might add as well, so maybe in the future I might feel that I want to be challenged more by it.
Maybe.
I think you are judging it. If it was made now, and it was like this, then I think you'd have a point. But you got to think: is there many other films of this, similar to this, from the late 90s?
Possibly not. But maybe that's a good reason.
That's what I always kind of think with these things, where to take it in context of when it was made as well. And you can do it well for about obviously Transformers every time, whenever. But for this one, I think I liked it then and I still like it now. So I can see what you mean. You wanted proper on-screen death. You wanted more.
Yeah.
You wanted him to go full like in ID. You wanted to go full dark side and be part of their world. But I just don't think that. I don't think it'll work.
I think Matt put it right. I wanted to be challenged, and I don't think there's a challenge in this film. But I think knowing that David Fincher was supposed to direct, I think there is a possibility we could have got something which was challenging.
It would have been completely fucked up if he directed this.
Well, apparently it was supposed to be just shot on a handheld camera if it was going to be done with Fincher.
Really?
Yeah. I think that sounds really interesting. Don't know, you might have shit the bed, but it might have been brilliant. Who knows? Sadly, we'll never find out. So that leads us on to Nic Cage, good or bad. I think a large part of why I'm going to say bad is down to the script, but I don't think his character work was very strong. For pretty much 90 minutes of this film, things just happen to him. He doesn't have any agency. Things just occur around him, and he doesn't really react to them, and they don't change him until he snaps. But that snap feels very out of the blue. I know he's been through a lot of shit, but we haven't seen the effects. It's not like with, say, Daenerys in Game of Thrones. We see things happen to her. She changes as a character, and then the snap isn't so much a snap as revealing her true colours. This is just a jarring, going from being a very middle-of-the-road, ho-hum kind of a guy to a killer, and I don't think that worked. But there's that one scene when Cage goes to the sex porn club with Max California, and there's no reaction. He's just utterly deadpan. He looks bored, if anything. If we had a performance in the vein of, say, Stanley Goodspeed in The Rock, we see things happen to him and he grows as a character, going from a scientist to a superhero. And we don't get that. And that's what we needed. We needed that progression. So it's bad again from me. Stu, what do you think?
I am actually. He was the worst part of the film.
Yeah.
There was more interesting characters, and you could have put literally anyone in the place of him, and it would have made no difference. And you could have put, I don't know, Dustin Diamond in there, and that would have been more realistic. But
Screech, that'd have been brilliant.
Exactly, he would have made. I mean, Dirty Screech. He could have had the same impact. You could have put anyone. Sean William Scott. Anyone. Any most ridiculous person that comes to mind, you could put him in that role, and they'd be exactly the same. I think he just found it in. So for this time, even though I did like the film, and I do really enjoy it, he's the worst part of it. So
yeah,
no, he's not.
Utterly fair. Matt, where are you sitting on this one?
Completely agree. Clean sweep. I don't think he was anything offensively bad, but it was just the cast around him overshadowed him completely. He just he didn't do anything to make us care about his transformation into this world that is completely unusual to him. And I think that when he's in that world, then he's not very believable either. And then there's the scene when he's hugging his wife and he's screaming, "Save me, save me!" It's just, yeah, it was shite. I didn't really enjoy it, and it's odd actually, because that you'd think would be a role he'd absolutely sink his teeth into and really take great pleasure out of it, and it's all seemed a little half-arsed.
That scene in particular was very Amdram, wasn't it? It's proper like local community theatre, just very over the top and just so out of place. Terrible. So I'm quite surprised. So when I said on the last week's on the question cast, I said I thought I knew what Stu was going to say. I've kind of got that right. I thought you might have liked Snake Eyes a little bit more because it's a little bit off the wall in parts, but. Matt, I thought you might have gone the other way round. I thought you might have gone with enjoying Snake Eyes, but not enjoying 8mm. So, yeah, you have surprised me this week, gentlemen.
You haven't.
No. It's become quite obvious now. Most of the films are terrible. Right.
This pod was your idea.
I know. The thing is, though, like, the terrible ones, like the ones which are like a 3 or 4 out of 10, I enjoy those a lot more than these ones which have been a 6 because they've just been middle of the road. Yeah. It's like you said, if a film's so bad it's good, I will watch that any day. If a film's just MOR, I've got no interest in it. It's just no rewatchability for me.
So you'd rather watch Velocipasta than this?
Any day. Plus, Velocipasta's 70 minutes long. But I can do that on my lunch break at work. Fucking brilliant. So that's us done for another week. Please remember to leave a review on iTunes. It will help others to discover us. Also, let all your friends and family know. If they love Nic Cage, if they loathe Nic Cage, just tell them to follow us on the Twitter @CageFightingPod. Email us to cagefightingpod@gmail.com. And we can start having general chit-chats about the man himself. So for this week, Stu, would you like to say goodbye?
Dustin Diamond, goodbye.
Matt, would you like to say goodbye?
Take it easy, guys. Stay safe.
And it's goodbye from me. And remember, I would hate to see you in one of those everyday situations which calls for a battery-operated vagina, and you just don't have one. See you next week. He's actually the man behind the plot to kill the secretary. When he meets up with his accomplice, let's try that again. He meets up with his accomplice. Fuck's sake. There is no N in accomplices.